I never thought I'd be the guy posting here, but I guess life has a way of humbling you. My wife, 31F, and I, 33M, have been together for almost 8 years, married for 5. For most of that time, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. Not perfect, no marriage is, but stable. We had routines, shared plans, and the kind of quiet comfort you build after years with someone. But if I'm being brutally honest, the problems probably started long before I noticed them. My wife has always had a sharp personality. When she's in a good mood, she's funny and confident. But when she's irritated, she can be incredibly harsh. Like the kind of person who'll say something cutting and then act like you're too sensitive if it bothers you. Over the last year, that side of her started showing up more often. Little arguments turned into full-blown fights. She'd snap at me over small things, dishes in the sink, forgetting to buy something from the store, even how I parked the car once. And whenever I tried to talk about it, she'd brush it off. Relax, she'd say. You're always overthinking everything. But the biggest change was how secretive she became. Her phone suddenly became off limits. She used to leave it lying around the house all the time. Then one day, out of nowhere, she started taking it everywhere: bathroom, shower, even quick trips to grab the mail. At first I didn't think much of it. Everyone goes through phases where they're glued to their phone. But then the lies started creeping in. She'd tell me she was working late, but come home smelling like a bar. She'd say she was out with coworkers, but when I asked simple questions like who was there, her answers were vague, or they changed later. One night I asked her directly, "Why does your story keep changing?" She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might fall out. "Oh my God," she said. "Do you interrogate everyone like this, or just your wife?" That's kind of how it always went. Every time something didn't add up, somehow I became the problem. Still, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. 8 years with someone makes you want to believe them, even when your gut is screaming that something's wrong. And then one random Tuesday night about 4 months ago, something happened that made my stomach drop so hard I almost felt sick. Because that was the moment I realized the truth about my wife. And once I saw it, there was no way to unsee it. The crazy thing is, I wasn't even trying to snoop. That's what makes the whole situation feel even more surreal. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing special. We were both at home, just doing our usual routine. She was in the shower and I was in the living room finishing up some work on my laptop. At some point my phone died. Completely dead. I needed to check a message from my manager about the next morning schedule, and my charger was upstairs in the bedroom. Normally I would have just waited. But her phone was sitting right there on the coffee table. And in our relationship, using each other's phones had never been a big deal before. At least it used to be that way. So I picked it up. The screen lit up immediately. And right at that exact moment, a notification popped up. A message. From a contact saved as Ryan, work. At first I didn't think anything weird about it. But the preview message made my stomach tighten instantly. It said, "I can't stop thinking about last night." I just stared at the screen for a few seconds. My brain started doing that thing where it tries to come up with normal explanations. Maybe it was sarcasm. Maybe it was about a work event. Maybe I was misunderstanding it. But something about the wording didn't feel normal. My hands started shaking a little. I told myself I shouldn't open the message. But I did. And the moment the chat loaded, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. The conversation wasn't just flirty. It was obvious. Messages about meeting up after work. Inside jokes about sneaking around. Complaints about me. At one point he literally wrote, "Your husband has no idea, does he?" And her response? "He's clueless." That word just sat there on the screen. Clueless. Like I was some idiot living in my own house. I kept scrolling even though my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. There were photos. Late night messages. Plans to meet at a hotel a few weeks earlier. And the timestamp showed something that made it even worse. This wasn't new. Their messages went back 7 months. 7 months of lies. 7 months of working late. 7 months of kissing me goodbye in the morning like nothing was wrong. I was still staring at the phone, trying to process everything, when I suddenly heard the bathroom door open down the hallway. My wife was coming back. And I was still holding her phone in my hands. The second I heard the bathroom door open, my heart started racing. For a split second I thought about putting the phone back exactly where it was and pretending nothing happened. But it was too late. The chat was still open in my hands, and my brain felt like it had completely short-circuited. Her footsteps came down the hallway. Then she walked into the living room. She stopped the moment she saw me. Not just me holding her phone. For a second neither of us said anything. Her eyes flicked from my face to the phone screen, then back to me. And I swear I saw it. That tiny flash of panic before her expression hardened. "What are you doing with my phone?" she asked. Her voice wasn't confused. It was sharp. Defensive. I swallowed, trying to steady my voice. "Who's Ryan?" The room went completely quiet. For about 3 seconds she just stared at me. Then she rolled her eyes dramatically and let out a loud sigh. "Oh my God," she muttered. "Not fear. Not guilt. Annoyance." "Are you serious right now?" she said. I blinked. "You're asking me that?" I said slowly. "I just read your messages." Her expression changed instantly. "Why were you going through my phone?" she snapped. That question hit me like a slap. "You're cheating on me," I said. Her eyebrows shot up like I had just accused her of something ridiculous. "Excuse me?" "I saw the messages," I said, holding up the phone. "Don't lie to me." Instead of panicking, she laughed. Actually laughed. "You're unbelievable," she said, shaking her head. My chest tightened. "What part of those messages is supposed to be normal?" I asked. She crossed her arms. "First of all," she said, "Ryan is a coworker. That's obvious. And second," she continued, "you clearly took everything out of context." Out of context. I stared at her in disbelief. "You called me clueless." She shrugged. "It was a joke." "A joke?" "Yes," she said sharply. "People joke like that. You wouldn't know because you take everything so seriously." I felt anger starting to mix with the shock. "There are messages about a hotel," I said. She immediately shook her head. "Oh my God," she scoffed. "You're being paranoid again." Again. Like this was somehow a pattern. "Then explain it," I said. She walked over, glanced at the screen for maybe 2 seconds, then waved her hand dismissively. "That was after a work party," she said. "A bunch of us were joking around in a group chat earlier and it carried over." "This isn't a group chat." Her smile twitched for just a second. Then she shrugged. "Well, maybe people left the chat. I don't remember every dumb conversation I have." Every answer came out fast. Too fast. Like she'd already rehearsed a dozen excuses in her head. But then I scrolled down a little further. And I found the message that made my stomach drop even more. I turned the screen toward her. And for the first time that night, her confident expression completely disappeared. The message wasn't subtle. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't something you could twist into a misunderstanding. It was from Ryan, sent about 2 weeks earlier. "Last night was worth every risk." Right under it was her reply. "Agreed. But we have to be more careful." I held the phone out toward her. "Explain that." For the first time since the conversation started, she didn't say anything. Her eyes stayed on the screen for a few seconds. Then she grabbed the phone out of my hand. "Stop digging through my private messages," she snapped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're serious right now? I asked. Yes, she said coldly. You had no right to go through my phone. You're cheating on me. I am not. I just stared at her. You literally told him you have to be more careful. Her jaw tightened. That doesn't mean what you think it means. Then what does it mean? She rolled her eyes again. Oh my God, you're exhausting. Exhausting. Apparently discovering your wife's affair is exhausting for her. That message was about a rumor at work, she said. People think we're flirting and it's creating drama. So you told him last night was worth every risk because of a rumor? She hesitated. Just for a second. Then she shrugged. People exaggerate things when they text. My brain felt like it was melting. Every piece of evidence I showed her somehow turned into my misunderstanding. You've been messaging him for 7 months, I said quietly. So? Yes, she snapped. We work together. We talk. That's normal. There are messages about meeting at a hotel. That was after a conference. You told me you were visiting your sister that weekend. She froze. It lasted maybe 2 seconds. Then she shrugged again. Plans changed. That casual response made something inside my chest tighten painfully. 7 months of lies, and she was treating it like a minor scheduling mix-up. Did you sleep with him? I asked. The room went silent. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No. One word. Cold. Quick. Certain. But something about the way she said it didn't feel real. Because 5 minutes ago nothing happened. Then the messages were jokes. Then it was work rumors. Then a conference. Every version of the story kept changing depending on what I showed her. And suddenly I realized something that made my stomach twist. If the truth was innocent, she wouldn't need this many lies to explain it. After she said no, the room felt painfully quiet. I kept staring at her, trying to read her face. We'd been together 8 years. I used to think I knew exactly when she was lying. But now? I wasn't sure about anything anymore. She looked completely calm. Irritated, even. Meanwhile, my brain kept replaying the messages over and over. 7 months. Hotel. Be more careful. Your husband has no idea. I rubbed my face and took a slow breath. You're lying, I said quietly. Her expression hardened instantly. Wow, she said sarcastically. So now I'm a liar too. You've been lying for months. No, I haven't. You told me you were visiting your sister the weekend you were at that conference. That's not lying, she snapped. I was with coworkers. Ryan just happened to be there. At a hotel. Yes. That's where conferences happen. Her answers came fast again. Sharp. Defensive. Every question turned into an argument. You're twisting everything, she said. I'm reading your messages. You're spying on me. I saw a notification. That doesn't give you the right to dig through my phone. I laughed bitterly. So the problem is my privacy violation, not the fact that another guy is texting my wife about risky nights together? She crossed her arms. You're acting crazy. That word again. Crazy. Like I was the unstable one in this situation. I sat down slowly on the couch because my legs suddenly felt weak. Did you kiss him? I asked. She hesitated. Just a tiny pause. Then she sighed dramatically. Once, she muttered. My chest tightened. So something did happen. It meant nothing, she snapped quickly. It was after drinks. Everyone was drunk. You just said nothing happened. Because it basically didn't. You kissed another man. Oh my God, it was one kiss, she said loudly. Stop acting like the world ended. One kiss. 7 months of messages, and suddenly it was just one kiss. I looked up at her. Are you seriously expecting me to believe that's all it was? She shrugged. Believe whatever you want. That shrug hit harder than the confession. No apology. No guilt. Just irritation that the conversation was even happening. Then something unexpected happened. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at the screen. And her expression changed immediately. That tiny flash of panic again. What? I asked. Nothing, she said quickly, locking the phone. What did it say? It's work. Was it Ryan? No. You're lying again. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she sighed. Yes, it was Ryan. My stomach dropped. What did he say? She hesitated. Then she muttered something that made my chest feel like it caved in. He asked if you know. For a second I honestly thought I misheard her. He asked if I know? I repeated. She looked irritated that the words had even slipped out. Yes, she said. So what? So what? I said, my voice rising. So what does he think I'm supposed to know? She rubbed her temples like she was the one dealing with a headache. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Out of proportion? I laughed in disbelief. Your affair partner is literally texting you asking if your husband knows. He's not my affair partner. You admitted you kissed him. That doesn't make him my affair partner. I stared at her. Every time she admitted something, she immediately minimized it. Like if she made it small enough, maybe I'd stop asking questions. What exactly does he think I know? I asked again. She didn't answer. Just looked away. Tell me. It's not a big deal. Then tell me. She sighed heavily. He thinks we've gone further. My stomach dropped. Further than what? Than a kiss. The room went completely silent. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears again. And have you? I asked quietly. Her jaw tightened. No. But this time the words sounded weaker. Less confident. Like she knew the story was starting to fall apart. Then why would he think that? I asked. She shrugged. Guys exaggerate things. Ryan has been texting you for 7 months about secret meetups and risky nights, and you expect me to believe he just imagined the rest? You're twisting everything again. No, I said slowly. I'm trying to understand how deep this actually goes. She crossed her arms. I already told you. You told me nothing happened. Because nothing did. Then you said you kissed him. That was nothing. And now he thinks you've slept together. That's his problem. The conversation felt like running in circles. Every answer created 3 more questions. Then I remembered something from the messages. I grabbed the phone from the couch again and scrolled up. There's a message where he says last night was worth every risk, I said. Explain that. That was a joke. You also said the hotel was for a conference. Yes. But you told him it was risky. Because of work gossip. The excuses kept coming. But then I found another message I hadn't noticed before. My stomach dropped. I turned the phone toward her again. Then explain this. Her eyes scanned the screen. And this time, she didn't even try to respond immediately. Because the message said, I can't wait until you finally leave him. And underneath it, her reply. Soon. The word soon just sat there on the screen between us. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Slowly, I looked up at her. Soon. I said quietly. For the first time since this conversation started, she didn't have an instant answer. Her eyes moved from the phone to me, then back to the floor. "It didn't mean anything," she muttered. I blinked. "You told another man you're leaving your husband," I said. "How does that not mean anything?" She let out an irritated breath. "You're reading way too much into a text. You wrote soon. That doesn't mean I actually plan to leave. Then why say it?" She shrugged. I didn't want to argue with him. I stared at her in disbelief. "So instead you just told him you were leaving your marriage?" It was easier. Easier. That word hit harder than I expected. Easier than telling him the truth? I asked. Yes. The casual way she said it made my stomach twist. "So what exactly is the truth?" I asked. "That we were flirting," she said. "That's it. You met at hotels. 4 drinks. You kissed. Once. He thinks you're leaving me." I told you, he exaggerates things. Every answer sounded like another brick in a wall she was building between us. Then something suddenly clicked in my head. "Does he know you're married?" I asked. She frowned. "Of course he does." "No," I said slowly. "Does he know you're still married?" Her face went completely still. And that silence told me everything. "Oh my God," I whispered. She didn't say anything. "You told him we were separated," I said. She still didn't answer. "You told him that, didn't you?" Finally she spoke. I might have said things were complicated. My chest felt tight. "Complicated?" I repeated. "Yes. So he thinks I'm basically out of the picture." She crossed her arms again. "I never said that exactly. But you implied it." She didn't deny it. And suddenly the whole situation felt even worse. Because this wasn't just cheating. She had been building 2 different versions of her life. One with me. And one with him. "You made me look like an idiot," I said quietly. "You're overreacting." "No," I replied. "I'm finally reacting the right amount." For the first time that night, I felt something shift inside me. The shock was fading. The confusion was fading. And what replaced it wasn't just anger. It was clarity. Because the more she talked, the more obvious the truth became. This wasn't a mistake. It was a double life. And I still had no idea how deep it really went. Once that realization hit me, I couldn't unsee it. Every lie from the last year suddenly started lining up like pieces of a puzzle. The late nights. The work dinners. The weekends where she was too busy to spend time together. I had blamed stress. Work. Normal relationship ups and downs. But now it looked completely different. "You've been seeing him regularly, haven't you?" I asked. She rolled her eyes again. "Oh my God, here we go. That's not a no. I told you what happened." "No, you didn't," I said calmly. "You told me the smallest version of the story you thought I'd believe." Her jaw tightened. "That's not true. First nothing happened. Then it was jokes. Then a conference. Then one kiss." She didn't respond. "And now I find out he thinks you're leaving me. That's not what I..." "Just stop," I said. She blinked, clearly surprised. I'd never interrupted her like that before. For the first time since this started, my voice was completely calm. "You know what the biggest problem is?" I said. "What?" "I don't believe anything you say anymore." That seemed to hit her harder than the accusations. She scoffed. "Good. Because I'm tired of defending myself." Defending herself. Like she was the victim here. I picked up her phone again and kept scrolling through the messages. The deeper I went, the worse it got. Inside jokes. Late night conversations. Complaints about me. At one point she had literally written, "He's so predictable." Ryan replied, "That's why you're bored with him." And her answer? Exactly. My chest felt tight again. I looked up at her. "You told him you're bored with me." She shrugged. "It was just talking. You've been trashing me to this guy for months. It's called venting. You told him I'm predictable." "You are." The way she said it was so casual it almost felt unreal. Like the person I thought I knew had completely disappeared. Then something else caught my eye in the chat. A message from Ryan sent 2 weeks earlier. "When can I finally meet you without sneaking around?" My stomach dropped. Because right under it, she had written, "Soon. I promise." I slowly looked up at her again. "You promised him that too." Her expression hardened. "It didn't mean anything." "Everything doesn't mean anything to you. Because you're twisting it." "No," I said quietly. "I'm finally seeing it clearly." And the clear picture forming in my head was worse than I expected. Because this didn't look like a fling anymore. It looked like something much bigger. Something she had been planning for a long time. After that, the conversation kind of broke. Not because we ran out of things to say, but because I suddenly realized something that made everything feel pointless. No matter what I showed her, she wasn't going to admit the full truth. Every answer was another excuse. Every excuse was another lie. And every lie just made the gap between us bigger. So I did something I hadn't done the entire night. I stopped arguing. I just sat there quietly. That seemed to confuse her more than anything else. "Well," she said after a minute. "Well, what?" I replied. "Aren't you going to keep accusing me of things?" I looked at her. "You already accused yourself." She scoffed. "That's not what happened." I didn't even respond. Instead, I scrolled through the messages again. But this time I wasn't looking for proof. I was looking for patterns. And once I started paying attention, something else jumped out. Their conversations didn't just happen late at night. Some of them happened in the middle of the day. Right around lunchtime. Which meant one thing. "You've been seeing him during work hours too," I said. She immediately shook her head. "No, I haven't." I turned the phone toward her. "There are messages about meeting for lunch." "That was once. You told me you were working late those days." "It was a quick lunch." "You lied." "I didn't lie." "You told me you were in meetings." She sighed loudly. "Because I didn't want another interrogation." Another lie explained by another excuse. I leaned back on the couch and rubbed my eyes. My head was starting to hurt. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "What?" "For months I thought something was wrong with me." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I thought you were distant because I was working too much. Or because I wasn't paying enough attention to you." "That's partly true." I stared at her. "You're serious right now?" "Well, yeah," she said. "You've been kind of boring lately." That sentence felt like a punch to the stomach. Boring. "Don't act shocked," she continued. "People get bored in long relationships." "So your solution was to start another one?" "I didn't start another relationship." "You've been talking to him every day for 7 months. That's not a relationship." The way she said it was so casual it made my chest feel hollow. Then her phone buzzed again. Another message. From Ryan. She looked at the screen. And this time, she didn't even try to hide it. Instead, she said something that made my stomach drop again. "He says he's coming over." For a second I thought I misheard her. "He's what?" I asked. She looked at the phone again, like she was rereading the message. He says he's coming over, she repeated. My brain struggled to process that. Coming over, here? Yes. My heart started pounding again. When? She hesitated. Soon. Soon as in, tonight? She didn't answer right away. Then she said quietly. He didn't know you'd be home. I just stared at her. So he thought the house would be empty? She looked away. Probably. The realization hit me like a truck. Ryan wasn't just some guy she texted. He had been here before. In my house. You've brought him here, I said. It wasn't a question. Her silence confirmed it. How many times? She rubbed her forehead. It wasn't like that. That's not an answer. Only a couple times. A couple. I laughed bitterly. You've been cheating on me for months and you decided my house was a good place to host him. You're being dramatic again. I felt something inside my chest finally break. Not explode. Not rage. Just snap. You know what's crazy? I said quietly. What? I'm standing here trying to understand why my wife betrayed me, and you're worried about whether I'm being dramatic. She crossed her arms. Well, you are. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Ryan. She glanced at it. Then she looked at me. He's already on the way. The room felt suddenly very small. You told him to come here? I asked. No. Then why is he coming? She hesitated. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. He wanted to talk. Talk about what? You finding out. So Ryan knew. And apparently he thought the best idea was to show up at my house. Tell him not to come, I said. She typed something quickly. A moment later her phone buzzed again. She looked at it, then sighed. He says he's 5 minutes away. My chest tightened. You're kidding. She shook her head. No. 5 minutes. After 7 months of lies, the guy she'd been cheating with was about to walk up to my front door. And suddenly I realized something. The night wasn't even close to over. Because in 5 minutes, I was going to meet the man who helped destroy my marriage. The next 5 minutes felt like an eternity. I sat on the couch, frozen, staring at the front door like I could somehow stop what was coming. My wife leaned against the wall, her phone in her hand, pretending to be calm, but I could see the subtle twitch in her jaw, the way her fingers tapped the screen. Why is this happening? I muttered under my breath. Her response was almost casual. You've already seen everything. Might as well face him. I looked at her like she was insane. Face him? You've been lying for 7 months and now you're telling me I'm supposed to sit here and calmly talk to him? She shrugged. It's not my problem how you feel. My chest tightened. Anger, betrayal, and disbelief collided all at once. A knock at the door made my heart skip a beat. 5 minutes, she whispered. I got up slowly, hands shaking, and opened the door. There he was, Ryan. Smug, confident, completely unaware of the storm he had walked into. I didn't even think. I just stepped aside, letting him in. He smiled at me. Hey, man. Didn't expect to see you here. Neither did I said flatly, voice low. He glanced at my wife. She didn't tell you? I didn't answer. I just looked at her. You invited him in? I asked. What choice did I have? She said sharply. I didn't want him leaving angry or causing problems. Problems? I repeated. You've caused the problem for months. Her eyes narrowed. Stop yelling. You're embarrassing yourself. That cut me deep. Even now, after everything, she still thought I was the one embarrassing myself. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, clearly sensing the tension but not knowing the full extent of the betrayal. And then she did something that made my blood run cold. "Just sit down," she said to him. "We need to talk." Talk. Like nothing had happened. Like she wasn't the reason I was here, heart pounding, watching the man who had been texting her secrets for months walk casually into my living room. I realized in that moment, this night wasn't about answers. It was about control. And she still had it. I sat down, trying to keep my hands from trembling. Ryan looked between me and my wife, clearly unsure how hostile the room had become. So, he started, like he was trying to make small talk. "Everything okay?" I stared at him. "You've been texting my wife for 7 months about, what exactly?" She rolled her eyes. "Ryan, don't start. I'll handle this." "Handle this?" I echoed, incredulous. "You've been lying to me every day, making plans with him behind my back, and now you're telling me to just let it slide?" She shrugged. "I'm not telling you to let anything slide. I'm saying calm down and listen." "Listen to what?" "How you've been pretending your marriage is fine while plotting another life." Ryan shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. "Look, I didn't know." "You didn't know?" I cut him off. "You didn't know she's married? You didn't know she's been lying about where she was for months?" We didn't." "Exactly." I shouted. "This isn't just a misunderstanding. She lied, you both." She interrupted me, her voice sharp. "Stop. You're acting insane." Her tone hit harder than any insult could. She wasn't apologetic. She wasn't remorseful. She was angry at me for reacting to the life-shattering truth she had created. Ryan looked at her, confused. "Are you okay with this?" She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was calculated. "Of course. I've been managing it all along." Managing it. That word echoed in my head. She had managed our marriage, our lives, my emotions, like I was just another variable in her game. And in that moment, something inside me finally snapped. I realized I didn't need to beg for explanations. I didn't need to hear more excuses. Because no matter what happened tonight, no matter what she said or did, I could no longer trust her. And for the first time in months, I felt a strange clarity wash over me. I knew what I needed to do. I didn't yet know exactly how. But I knew I couldn't stay. Not after this. Not after everything. The rest of the night was surreal. Ryan left after what felt like an eternity of tense silence. My wife didn't try to stop him. Didn't look apologetic. She just watched him go, arms crossed, like nothing had changed. I sat on the couch long after the door closed. My chest felt heavy, like every breath was fighting against the weight of months of lies. My head was spinning, replaying every message, every excuse, every shrug, every "you're overreacting" she had thrown at me. Finally, I spoke. "I can't do this anymore," I said quietly. She looked at me, eyebrows raised. "Excuse me? I can't stay. I can't live in a house where the person I trusted most treats my feelings like they're irrelevant. I can't pretend what happened tonight isn't the culmination of months of betrayal." Her lips pressed tight. "You're overreacting." "No," I said, my voice firm now. "I'm finally reacting appropriately." She shook her head. "So what? You're just leaving?" "Yes. I'm leaving." I could see the brief flicker of panic in her eyes. Not fear of the pain she caused, but fear of losing control. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she said, almost whispering. I didn't respond. I just stood up, picked up my bag, and walked out. Every step felt heavy and light at the same time. Heavy because I was leaving a life I had invested in, and light because I was finally choosing myself. I didn't look back. Not once. That night, the silence of the empty house felt deafening and strangely liberating. I realized then that leaving wasn't just about punishing her or ending the affair. It was about reclaiming my life. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. And in that quiet, I made a promise to myself, never again would I let someone else's lies dictate my worth. It was the hardest decision I had ever made, but deep down, I knew it was the right one. The following weeks were a blur. I moved out, stayed with a friend, and tried to process everything. Every detail of that night kept replaying in my mind: the texts, the excuses, the casual way she shrugged off 7 months of betrayal. I felt anger, disbelief, and an overwhelming sadness. But underneath all of it, there was a strange sense of relief. Relief that I no longer had to pretend everything was okay. Relief that I could finally put myself first. Relief that I was finally free from the constant manipulation. I started talking to a therapist. I confided in friends. I let myself grieve the version of my marriage I thought I had. And slowly, I began to rebuild a sense of self I hadn't realized I had lost. I realized a few painful truths. Trust, once broken this badly, is almost impossible to fully repair. Excuses and deflections are not love, they are manipulations. You can't force someone to take responsibility for their actions, no matter how much you want them to. Some days were harder than others. Seeing reminders of her, or realizing how easily she had lied to me, made my chest tighten. But each day, the anger faded slightly, replaced by clarity and determination. And in that clarity, I made a conscious choice. I would never settle for being treated like my feelings didn't matter. I would never allow lies to define my life. I would move forward, not bitterly, but carefully, and with intention. I was no longer the person who tolerated manipulation. I was taking back control. Because surviving betrayal isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your life, and that's exactly what I intended to do. Months have passed since I walked out. Life isn't perfect, and some days the memories hit harder than others. But I can finally say I feel like myself again. I've learned a lot through this nightmare. 1. Trust is everything. Once it's broken like that, pretending it can be fully repaired only leads to more pain. 2. Self-respect comes first. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy your sense of worth. Walking away isn't failure, it's survival. 3. Listen to your gut. Those subtle red flags you ignore early on? They're usually right. I don't know what my ex-wife is doing now. I don't care. My focus is on rebuilding, healing, and learning to trust myself again. Therapy has helped, friends have supported me, and I've slowly started finding peace in my own company. To anyone going through something similar, notice the signs. Protect yourself. Walking away from someone who betrays you is hard, but staying will hurt even more. Your life, your peace, and your self-respect are worth far more than the illusion of a relationship built on lies. Betrayal changes you, but it doesn't have to define you. The hardest part is choosing yourself, and when you do, that's where the real healing begins.